Monarch is building the future for those interested in one wallet that consolidates the best services and functionality into one simple and easy-to-use app. Monarch will empower users to control all aspects of their financial kingdom from the palm of their hand. You may have heard the phrase, not your keys, not your crypto. With Monarch, you own your keys and seed, meaning you own your crypto. With Monarch, you can store, receive, send, swap, buy, sell, and earn interest on your crypto, track your portfolio, the news, the market cap, and more today. We're constantly adding new services and updates too. Learn more today by visiting monarchtoken.io or download the wallet for free today from Apple or Google.
Hey everyone, welcome back to an episode of Beards and Bitcoins. We are a crypto podcast for the man's man, and yes, the ladies that love him. I am Jay Chains, one of the co-hosts, joined by my friend, my homie, my ally, BitBoy, Ben Armstrong. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. Got a very exciting episode today.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. This is a special episode that is a near and dear to the hearts of many people in the crypto space. Lynn Ulbricht, who is the champion and advocate for really a movement, again, that is just really big to us. It's touching to a lot of our hearts. Free Ross. Make sure if you haven't already signed the petition, we're going to talk about it. Lynn, we are absolutely pleased to have you on the show today. How are you doing?
I'm great. Very happy to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. So again, in case you're listening and you're not familiar with what we're talking about, Free Ross. Ross Ulbricht is the founder of Silk Road and who's currently serving a double life sentence plus 40 years for a non-violent offense. A first-time offense, non-violent. Lynn, maybe you can speak to a little bit about, what you do and kind of your advocacy for Ross. Again, because as we were talking before, it's not just family and foundation. I mean, this is, again, at the heart of everybody. And kind of, if you're in crypto, you should know what's going on because it's important. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about your mission and what you do.
Sure. Well, my main mission is to get Ross out of his cage. It's ridiculous. He's totally nonviolent. He wouldn't hurt a flea, and he has a lot to contribute. He has a lot to contribute to our society and to the crypto space and all of that. And like you said, he was never accused of inflicting bodily harm on anyone. He is not dangerous. He's not, none of that. And he was given a double life sentence plus 40 years with no parole. He was, for something he did when he was 26 years old on a computer, he's 35 now. He's not going to go out there and do that again. He hasn't even been on the internet in years, but he wouldn't. So ever since he was arrested, I've been just absolutely laser focused on getting him out. And it's been now over 6 years. And, I can't give up. I'm his mother. I love him. And I cannot rest if he is rotting away in there. So I just keep going, plodding along, and with a lot of help from people like you all to get the word out, and so many people in the crypto space, the blockchain people. It's been, made it possible, really, for us to be where we are now.
Absolutely. And I think if you go on the website, freeross.org, you do have the opportunity to sign the petition. So make sure, if you're listening, get on there, do your research on that and read exactly what's going on. I think you've got, a little over 250,000 signatures so far?
No, we're not there yet, but we're getting close.
Okay.
I didn't check today. I should have checked, but I think it might be closing in on 232,000 signatures.
Oh, so we are getting pretty close.
Getting pretty close. Hey, it might be more. I should look.
Yeah.
Then I'm afraid that I'll disconnect you and then you won't. I don't know what.
That's okay.
Technology, I don't dare, or it's working. We better not. Anyway.
So you obviously were not the mastermind of Silk Road.
Hardly.
Yeah.
No, I never went on Silk Road or knew about Silk Road or,
Yeah.
I'm of another generation, guys.
Right.
We don't, it's like learning a foreign language to us, as an adult. You're never quite fluent, but
yeah.
Anyway. I've gotten pretty good compared to a lot of people my age, but still.
I'm sure you've learned a lot through this process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
learning how to communicate with millennials and
stuff. I speak millennial pretty well. Although I'm like, I've got to clean up my language. Picking up this really bad habit. Not in public so much, but I'm like, okay, I got to clean up the language. Anyway.
So So I want to ask you about kind of where we stand right now with the whole process, because like, it's great. We have a petition signed. I want to know, like, from your opinion with where we're at right now, do you feel like there has actually been progress made towards getting Ross out?
Oh, I absolutely think there's progress. We have so much, and this started when Ross was arrested. I was just literally lying in bed right afterwards going, they're lying about my son. I have to put something up that's true. And so we put up a little one page with a friend, a high school friend of his helped us put up a little one page. Ross is this, he's not this, he's not this. Well, now we have, almost 250,000 signatures. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of support. We're gathering letters for a clemency package with some very important people and organizations saying to the president, this should happen, including the Libertarian Party. Yeah. The party officially came out unanimously for clemency for Ross. This is big stuff. I mean, this is represents a lot of people. So it's definitely grown. I mean, I've said, it's because of the internet that we've been able to grow it. But of course, if it weren't for the internet, I wouldn't have to be doing this.
Right.
So, it's kind of, but two-edged sword there. But the internet makes it possible to get, to talk about it and be heard. If it weren't for that, of course, and even now, there's so many people that are just being warehoused and forgotten in our prisons that don't have the same kind of either high profile thing or, a mother with a big mouth or whatever, that they're just forgotten people. It's terrible what's going on in our criminal justice system.
Do you feel like it's really impossible to have this conversation without getting political? It's my understanding from what I've read and understood that both Chuck Schumer and I believe Preet Bharara both were involved in pushing the prosecution and things like that.
Well, Bharara was the lead prosecutor.
Right.
And on Ross's trial, Ross was arrested and lived in California, but he was brought back to New York to be tried. And before trial, Senator Schumer did a public statement to Eric Holder saying, congratulations, you got your man. Yep. And I'm like, wait a second, we haven't even had a trial. Don't we have a presumption of innocence in this country? And does that taint the jury pool here? You're the senator. And so right there, Chuck Schumer did come out against, wanting to take down Bitcoin and Silk Road and, was very public about it. And in the movie Deep Web, the different officials say, well, it was this push from a senator that made us go after it so hard. I do think it was political. The judge was recommended by Schumer for her position on the bench. I think that the reason I think it's political, though, is that, first of all, it came out that the NSA, a few months before Silk Road was taken down, was urgently tracking Bitcoin users. Mm-hmm. Now, that, if they're Americans, that's illegal. I thought they were supposed to be tracking terrorists to keep us safe, but apparently they think Bitcoin users are more of a threat to, I guess, their monetary system. I mean, so I think that's political. But then when you look at the sentences of the other defendants, other Silk Road, people who are convicted around Silk Road, the biggest drug seller got 10 years.
That's it.
He has the same offense level as Ross. The guy who was running Silk Road 2, Blake Benthal, who the government itself said was identical, only bigger, got no time. He got 2 years back taxes, according to a Vice. And he's never really spent time in prison. And yet Ross gets double life plus 40 years with no parole. It's obviously political to me. And I think it's because they wanted to make an example. They wanted, it's like putting the head on the spike of the medieval castle, and they go, that's going to happen to you. You better not do it or your head will go there. And I think it's just, I think it was about Bitcoin. I think a lot of it was this alternate currency, this sort of, what the hell is this? What do you mean a currency?
Well, we know that New York has, definitely been the state that's been the most against Bitcoin. There are certain, websites, exchanges you can use in every other state except for New York. And I think the obvious tie-in there is Wall Street is in New York.
Oh, absolutely.
I think that's the tie-in. But where I was going with that question, I want to bring it back around here, is knowing that Preet Bharara and Chuck Schumer are both political enemies of Donald Trump. Do you guys have any hope that maybe, whether it's this term or, a lot of people believe, it's very hard to unseat an incumbent president. If he were to win the next term, do you guys have hope that Donald Trump could possibly be the person to commute the sentence. I think that's the right way to say it.
I definitely have hope. He's shown and expressed that he wants to have people get a second chance. Mm-hmm. He's already commuted and pardoned many people. Mm-hmm. He pushed through the First Step Act. That was being obstructed by the Senate and by Mitch McConnell, and he pushed it through. I think that he does want to do this. So, yeah, I think we definitely have a chance. I guess it doesn't hurt that his political enemies are our enemies.
Yeah. It's something I've thought about before,
Yeah. But no, I do. I think that he has expressed this. Now, other candidates, some Democrat candidates, actually Joe Biden said, even though he put a bunch of people in prison before, has said that he doesn't think any nonviolent person should be in prison, which is great. I agree. And Ron Paul said the same in his campaign. And I know Yang, and I'm sure Tulsi Gabbard, and probably all of them are somewhat for criminal justice reform. And so, but I do think Trump is yes.
Yeah, we know criminal reform or justice reform is something that the country definitely needs. I mean, because you think about, exactly. I'm in my mid to late 30s, and I know the guy that I was in my mid 20s is not nearly the same.
Oh,
right?
Gosh.
And so, it's so disappointing to think that, okay, that for a nonviolent offense, we can't say, let's take another look at this because clearly something is wrong with that sentence. Now, whether you believe Ross should spend some time in jail or not is one thing. A double life sentence, no parole, plus 40. That's just
a death sentence. It is a walking death sentence. Yeah. And exactly. I mean, and I've thought if I weren't his mother and I was hearing about this, I would absolutely think it was wrong. Even if he did everything they said, which I don't believe, that it's still too long. And it sets a terrible precedent for other people. We already have horribly excessive sentences in this country since the drug war, and life sentences have quintupled. There's, I think, over 17,000 nonviolent offenders serving life in our prisons. Wow. It's terrible. And Ross knows a bunch. In fact, he organized a photo that's on our website. They're all this whole gang of guys, they're in this picture. It's a heartbreaking picture, are all nonviolent drug offenders serving life. And the drug war has fueled this because they take drug offenders and give them life for, or a third strike. The third strike law has also been very much about people serving life, because that third strike until the First Step Act was life for your third strike, no matter what it was. Ross knows a guy in Florence is doing life for marijuana. It's in Colorado, but it's on federal land. It's doing life for marijuana. And then another guy in there doing life because his third strike was residue on a dollar bill. I mean, this is wrong. And then they passed the First Step Act. They said, okay, there's a big struggle and compromise to change this law. I don't know what could possibly be in the mind of someone who can't see how wrong it is. And they said, well, we'll make it 25 years now, but not retroactive. So that means, oh, so sorry, you got nailed for it before, so you still have to do life, even though anybody from now on only has to do only 25 years for their third strike. That's wrong.
Yeah.
That's like saying, oh, slavery's wrong, we're going to end it, but oh, you were a slave before, oh, so sorry, you have to stay a slave. I mean, it doesn't even make sense.
I think certainly when we get changes to the federal marijuana laws, hopefully we'll see some changes in that regard. I mean, is it a state-to-state issue? I think it can be kind of tough, but and I think it's just a matter of time at this point. I agree. But I know for me, I've known about this story for a long time. I was involved in Bitcoin. I never used Silk Road, but when that was going on. But sometimes I think some people in crypto, it's hard to really get an unbiased opinion about Ross because we're all so passionate about crypto. And, he definitely one of the, not founders, that's not the right word, but, one of the big people that we look to, he really helped advance this movement. Some people would say move it backwards in a way, but in my opinion, to move it forward. And so I told my wife about this. So I want to put it into context. So for several years, I ran a drug recovery program for teenage boys. So I certainly have a long history, and I'm in recovery myself for 13 years. So I definitely have a history with drugs, a history with drug rehab and things like that. And so my wife is also very passionate about, helping kids get off drugs and things like that. And, obviously, hard drugs and things like that. But I told my wife about the situation. And so we're conservative people, we're conservative. And so it was interesting to gauge her reaction because she had not heard this story. It was probably 2 years ago when I told her about it. And when I told her about this, and we're all for, and people that deserve convictions getting convictions, and her reaction was, you have to be kidding me. They gave him life for that. Like, that's absolutely insane. And it was very interesting to gauge her reaction, being someone that's outside of our community, that is a conservative, that, I'm not going to say that we're, against drug convictions for people that are nonviolent, because we are for drug convictions. Now, the level of that conviction, it certainly, you don't want to see somebody in prison 17 years for marijuana. But, if somebody's dealing huge amounts of cocaine, like, I don't know if they need to be on the street. But the point is that to gauge her reaction on that was very interesting. And a question that I've always wanted to ask you about this is, do you believe that there was some time warranted? If you had to say, like, okay, sure, I understand there were definitely some things that occurred with Silk Road. Like, what do you think the proper amount of time for a conviction is on that?
Hey, how about time served right now? I mean, I'm not saying right. I don't think he needed to be in there that long at all. In fact, I don't think nonviolent people should need to be in a cage. They can have an ankle bracelet. They can come out. They can monitor their movements. They can make restitution. And they don't have to be costing taxpayers billions of dollars. Yeah. So I'm not in favor of prisons unless it's violent people who are actually a danger to society. I'm not in favor of it as a punishment. I think that the people who have offended, and that, we can argue whether Ross deserves that, but can make restitution to people. But I mean, if somebody steals my car, I'd rather they pay me back and give me the money for the car instead of my taxes have to pay to keep them in prison. Yeah. It doesn't really work. It doesn't stop crime. And the drug war certainly doesn't stop people using drugs.
Right.
And that's what I say to conservatives. I'm like, because I came into this quite conservative. I'm like, it doesn't work except to make a lot of money for a lot of people, including the government, and shred our rights. They use the drug exception and other things to weaken our Constitution. And it absolutely doesn't work. They can't even keep drugs out of the prison. How are they ever going to stop people using drugs? They never will. They know it.
Yeah.
It's a big, big moneymaker, jobs program, whole industry but everybody knows they're never going to stop people using drugs.
Right.
And why not do something that works?
Yeah, I'm definitely a huge advocate for recovery myself. I mean, not to go too far on a tangent here, but, I overdosed on, all kinds of different drugs 13 years ago. I was in a coma, and then I was in jail, and I certainly could have gone to prison. I had felonies that were writing, but I actually went to rehab for 2 years. I was in rehab for 2 years, and because of that, I was able to get all of my stuff dropped, and I know, like, that's catch-22, because on one hand, like, it's great, but then you look at, what's going on with Ross, and that sucks for him. But, I definitely feel the pain from both sides, and I think recovery is people who want to be in recovery and want to get better, like, they will get better. I think that's the hard thing, is trying to get people that, don't necessarily want to change, to influence them to change. Like, that's why, mandated recovery doesn't always work. But, it is an addiction, and it definitely, it's a disease for sure, I believe. And, it's an unfortunate situation we're dealing with in the country regarding drugs in general.
Well, just to say that Ross did not start Silk Road to be a drug kingpin or to have people do drugs. It was, you can call it a naive idea, a very idealistic idea of a free market where people got to choose, as long as a third party was not harmed or victimized. If two people wanted to exchange drugs, the idea was, well, that's their choice. But if they want to engage in child pornography, well, then there's a third party, there's that child, and that's not okay. And these things were prohibited. It was based on the non-aggression principle. So my point a lot of the time is that his intentions were good. His intentions were not to harm people at all. Now, you can say that different things have unintended consequences, but society does not need to be protected from Ross for the rest of his life. It's an abuse of power that actually puts us all in peril, because if they can do that to him, they can do it to someone else.
Absolutely. It could happen to anybody. So I know, Lynn, you and I have had the opportunity, I know Ben as well, to meet you on many occasions at cryptocurrency conferences. What are other places that you go to spread the word outside of the crypto sphere?
Well, we have a lot of support in libertarian and liberty communities. I mean, Porcupine Freedom Festival, I don't know if you've heard of it, Pork Fest up in New Hampshire, gave me my first public speaking opportunity. And that's what led to me being on Reason TV, and because Nick Gillespie was in the audience and gave me a microphone to talk about this. I spoke at the Libertarian Convention. I've spoken at Students for Sensible Drug Policy, their thing, Students for Liberty. In fact, Students for Liberty nominated Ross as Alumnus of the Year 2 years ago. So a lot, I'd say in general, liberty and libertarian groups and crypto, Bitcoin, and crypto groups and conferences. But there's a huge overlap, of course, but I didn't do a Bitcoin conference until in Dallas. I think it was 2 years ago or a year and a half ago. And I didn't know how it would go because there's a lot of young people and people new to it. And it was all about, my ICO and your ICO and making money. And I thought, no one's going to want to hear me. And I went they put me in a kind of a pretty good sized side room. And it was packed. It was standing room only, standing ovations. And I always talk about, like Ross wrote an essay called Bitcoin Equals Freedom. That's what it was about for him. And that's what I think people need to keep in their mind. It's like Bitcoin is really an idea. It's based on a philosophy of freedom and monetary freedom that can benefit people all over the world. And so I always try to make that point. First of all, I can't talk about Bitcoin because I don't have the technical ability, so forget that. You don't want to hear me talk about Bitcoin. But also I think it's very important not to forget that. That's what Ross really cares about and cared about at the time.
Yeah.
So, and he's suffered. Look, he's been punished. He has been in a maximum security prison where there's stabbings and beatings and all kinds of pressures. He has, prison. He wrote an essay called Who Deserves This? And he made the point that it's torture. And he said, he went around and talked to a bunch of different guys in there and said, if you had a choice between actual torture, like, being flogged or something, or for limited time, or being in here for decades and decades or life, which would you pick? And they all picked the torture. Mm-hmm. And, it's like, okay, punish me, but this endless sentencing is just, and of course, I think it's because their inventory, they make a lot of money off of every inmate through the taxpayer.
Yeah. I mean, we've even seen privatization of prisons and things like that. So let me ask you this question. Like, I think we definitely all believe that at some point this nightmare for you is going to end. Have you thought about what that day is going to be like when you can finally get him out of prison?
Well, we even have a thing where people are joining each other and Ross every day. It's 7 p.m. Pacific and then up to 10 p.m. Eastern, visualizing that day, visualizing Ross free altogether, or praying or whatever, it's like just seeing that reality and feeling it. It'll be so wonderful to be able to just, feed him good food, being able to talk to him for as long as I want, to have a free conversation, to not be told, go here, go there, and be behind all these bars.
It makes you feel like you're in prison too.
Well, I spend a lot of time in there.
That's true.
I do. Yeah. Although I can leave, but still, it definitely impacts you to be in there. It's pretty difficult sometimes.
Yeah, I know. It's definitely very, very tough thing. I know I've visited people and, that they always make you feel like you're, like you should be in prison too, because you're going there. I just hate that whole thing. I think our whole justice system needs a revamping. And I've always said, like, man, to be somebody that works at a prison or a jail guard, whatever it might be, like, you really have to be, in my opinion, like a person that just likes being miserable, because even the people that work there always seem like they're miserable too. I mean, I wouldn't want to be there all day, every day. Like you said, like you almost feel like you're there too.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I have met some really nasty, sadistic people who work for the prisons, but I've also met some very decent people and passionate. It's a mix, and it's a job, and I think it pays okay. And I think, it's definitely a jobs program. I mean, in terms of the drug war, fueling it and all that, where I lived before, where Ross was in Colorado, there were 12 prisons around that little town. It was a local industry. If the drug war ended and, more than half of the people were taken out of there, it would be a big depression.
Right.
And which is why, of course, the prison guard unions and the police unions are two of the biggest lobbyists against marijuana legalization. Because it's great. They can put marijuana people in there, And they're not even usually dangerous. They don't even have to deal with that.
Yeah, most of the time they're not.
Yeah, it's human trafficking, I think. It's like if you're making money off of human beings, how is it not human trafficking?
Yeah.
That's actually a really good point. That's sad to think that that's what the prison system has come to. But we all know that, we've talked about this. We've said it a number of times in this show. It needs to be revamped. It needs some fresh face, because we look bad in front of the whole world, I think.
Oh, well, we're the biggest incarcerator.
By far. I think I saw that statistic.
It's a national disgrace. It is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think the issue comes in where the overlap between the business of imprisonment overlaps with society's agreed upon rules, because as a society, we can agree to laws. We can say, like, look, it's not good to murder somebody. It's not good to steal from somebody, whatever that might be. But when the overlap is with, businesses and privatization of prisons, where it's the suspects in a case are looked at as dollar signs, not as humans and individuals, I think that's where, it gets very dicey, the line between, like you said, imprisonment and human trafficking. And
I think it's true of public. I mean, they overlap a lot, because it's not like I can go buy an acre of land and build a prison and say, hey, come to my prison. It's not a free market thing or anything like that. It's definitely all involved. But with the private prisons, judges and prosecutors can invest on those on Wall Street.
Seriously?
Isn't that a conflict of interest?
Wow, that seems insane that would be possible.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's crazy.
And I read an article where a private prison in a town put out the word. They go, hey, we're running out of inventory, and if you guys better fill these cells or we're going to close down, you'll be out of a job.
Wow.
I thought we were supposed to want to have prisons closed down.
Yeah. We want people to live their best life. That's for sure. Holy moly.
Yeah.
I didn't even think
the incentive is very bad. Yeah. But it's also true in the public prison. There's incentive also. So.
Well, Bitcoin fixes this, right? Isn't that what we're supposed to say to everything? Maybe Bitcoin can fix this. I don't know. We'll have to see. But yeah, definitely.
If we get Ross out, I think it'll be a big moment for setting back a bad precedent.
Absolutely. I think we all.
He will speak out about criminal justice reform big time, because he's seen it. He's lived it.
He's
lived
for
over 6 years. Yeah.
Well, hopefully, Donald Trump, I know he met with Kim Kardashian and Kanye, I think, about prison reform. So he definitely seems to be a president that is, interested in that. I don't know if it's all talk, but I think there's been some action. Maybe there will be some more action, but I think we're all hoping and praying that, that either it's at the end of this term, or if he gets reelected by the end of the next term, hopefully, some progress can be made to actually get him out. I know, so some people have made comments, like I've seen some people say stuff, and I'm sure you've probably encountered something like this, like, why is she fighting for him so hard? Like, she wants attention or what? Like, you're his mom.
Oh, yeah. I want attention.
You're his freaking mom.
I want a vacation is what I want.
Yeah. Like, I know if something like this happened to me, like, my mom would fight until, I've got a good mom. You know what I mean? Like, she would fight until her last dying breath to help me and to get me out and to spread the truth and spread the awareness. So, definitely, it's obvious you love Ross and you want the best for him. And, you just want to kind of go back to some semblance of normal.
Well, yeah. And also it's become a bigger fight, because I know the families, the other families, and the children, and you see the harm and you see the unnecessary suffering that this is causing. And so, I plan to, when I get him out, I'll continue to speak out about it and help change things, because it's not just about Ross. He's not unique.
Right.
And and the thing is, maybe people who aren't parents don't understand this, but for me, like I say, I couldn't just walk away. Hey, Ross, see ya. Go ahead, rot in your cell. I'm going to go over here and pursue my bliss, and it's all good. No, I have no choice. I mean, in a way, I can't not care and do whatever I can possibly do to get him out of prison.
Yeah. Well, you are a great mother. You're a strong woman and a great mother, and absolutely appreciate you taking your time out of your day to talk with us. And
thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's an important cause to all of us. Like I said earlier, everyone in the crypto space, freeing Ross, getting him out and getting the chance to hopefully see him at a crypto conference sometime in the near future would be amazing.
You don't have to listen to me anymore. I don't have your attention.
We need to have Ross on the show.
We need to have Ross there.
Yeah, we'll still talk to you. Don't you worry, Lynn.
No, believe me, it's fine. I just wanted to say a couple more things about how people can help.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, so there's the petition. Please share it. Please sign it. We are also asking Ross supporters in different states to show up at Trump rallies and get it noticed, either by the media. We can post pictures on social media by Trump people. And so that he understands that this is something people care about. So we're going to have a whole thing on our website and all of that, but we've already had this happen in New Hampshire and in Dallas. So anybody who wants to be involved in that, please get a hold of me through freeross.org. Also, if anybody has political connections, either in Washington or any legislators or anybody that you think might help to get me in touch with people, please let me know. And if you're ever moved to help us financially, that'd be great. A lot of people have made a lot of money with Bitcoin. I know a lot of people tell me that if it weren't for Ross, Bitcoin would not be known at all.
Yep.
So he needs your help. He's fighting for his life. He's not just an abstract legend. He's a human being, and he needs to get out of there. So anyway, any help you can give, we're very, very grateful.
Absolutely. And the website is freeross.org. And
yes.
And if they want to connect with you on social media, like a Twitter, it's just at Free Ross, right?
At free_Ross, because unfortunately Free Ross was taken, but free_Ross. And then Ross has his own at Real Ross U.
That's right.
You can get a real sense of who Ross is from that site. And we also have an Instagram, Free Ross Ulbricht, and we have a Facebook page, Free Ross community page. And then I have my own Facebook page. So pretty easy one way or another to get a hold of me.
Get connected, sign the petition, do the right thing.
Please.
Lynn, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Anytime. We'll talk to you soon.